All right, so joining us today on The Pulse, he's got a lot of titles. He is America's best-known psychic medium. He is a best-selling author. He is the host of a hit show, or I don't even know reality TV if you're the host. He is the star of a hit show on E! Entertainment. He is Matt Fraser, and he joins us on The Pulse. Hello, sir.
Hey, Bill, it's great to be here with you.
I absolutely appreciate you doing this. Good to see you.
Listen, you gave me the best intro ever, all right? You're making my head too big right now.
Let's rewind for a little bit and kind of do background. Like, how do you get into being a psychic medium? How does that even start?
I mean, this gift started with my grandmother, who was born a psychic medium, who passed it on to my mom, and who in turn passed it on to me. But you got to understand that way back in the day, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when my grandmother had this gift, nobody could talk about it. I mean, back in those days, it was taboo to even talk about sensing and feeling your loved ones with you. So my grandmother kept it so hidden that not even her own husband knew that she did this. And when my mom was growing up, it was the same thing. You know, she kept it hidden, never talked about it, and more importantly, tried to run away from it. And when I was growing up, I too had that same ability. Every time I was alone, every time I would try to go to sleep, every time I'd be by myself, souls would come to me and try to get me to deliver messages. But being so young, I had no idea what they wanted. I never realized that I was a psychic or a medium. I literally just thought that the house was haunted.
Now, today, seeing you kind of understand it, that sounds like that would be really scary to a child.
Oh my God, it was petrifying. And you know, I did what any other kid would do, Bill. I ran from it and ran from it and ran from it. And I did everything that I could just to live a normal life. But growing up, I always felt a strong connection to people. I always felt the need to help other people, to be there for other people. So I actually started my journey as an EMT. My life goal was to be, you know, an EMT and then, you know, paramedic and then maybe physician's assistant. I never, ever thought that I would be a psychic or a medium because I was so afraid of what I was sensing and feeling and experiencing. Yeah. So I went to go and see a medium for the first time myself, and it completely changed my life. It was at that moment that I realized that I could do this too. And not only that, Bill, but I realized at that moment that I could use this gift to help people to heal just in a different way by helping them reconnect with those that they've lost.
So how does it work? Like, the people, they just talk to you, they just visit you. You said when you were a kid, you're trying to go to sleep and you have all of these, you know, these voices in your head.
I got to be honest with you, I still don't know how it works, Bill, to be honest with you. Okay. It's almost like if I ask you, Bill, how do you walk? You know, how is it that you walk? And you're like, I don't know, Matt, I just do it. I get on two legs and I walk. Well, it's the same thing with me. The way that it works is that literally when I connect with somebody, a lot of times if there's a soul that's there that has a message that they need to deliver, they will use me as a way to do it. When I connect with the spirit, normally I'll see the vision of that spirit that's there. So I see shadows and silhouettes. But then what happens next is I'll start to communicate with them with quick bits of information. I'll sense and feel things within my body. I'll hear quick bits of information. And then next thing you know, I'll have these weird sensations that start to happen. So for example, let's say I'm connecting with the soul. They might come through and say, you know, and by the way, when I connect with them, I actually ask them questions in my head. So I'll say, how did you pass? And they'll say quick illness. And I'll say, what happened? Heart attack. And then I'll start to feel what they went through before they had passed. And what they'll even do is they'll show me different visions in front of my eyes. And visions are literally like daydreaming when you're awake.
So it's not a situation where you're saying, I want to go talk to fill in the blank. They contact you.
Absolutely. So what happens is that souls come through for a reason. So a lot of people don't realize that for me as a medium, I can't just call up anybody that I want. I can't talk to Marilyn Monroe or, you know, Elvis Presley because I didn't have a connection with them here in this world. And souls come to me. I don't go seeking them out. They come to me to deliver a message to somebody here in this world. And the reason why is because many times a loved one might pass on and we're left with guilt, anger, and questions, right? Mm-hmm. We wonder, you know, how did this person die? Maybe they left this world and we didn't get to answer that piece of their life. We wonder if they're watching over us, if they're really there. Maybe we didn't get to say goodbye to that person. Maybe there was a misunderstanding that happened before that person had passed on. Maybe there was something that person that had passed didn't get to tell their loved one here in this world. And that's where I come in. I could be sitting in a restaurant and next thing you know, a soul come to me and say, that's my friend over there. You know, I passed in this way. You need to let her know I'm okay. It actually just happened recently when I was eating dinner in Rhode Island. There was a bartender behind the bar who had lost her fiance, of a suicide. And I felt compelled to go over there and to deliver a message because that soul was there speaking to me.
Like, this is everything you've experienced since you were a child. But I know, particularly when you've climbed to this high profile, there are a lot of non-believers. There are a lot of people who say, no, I'm not embracing this. Any stories, anybody who you just couldn't convince, or you past that? You don't even try to convince people of it being real?
I don't try to convince people. I let the spirit world do the convincing. But the funny part is I love the skeptical ones. I love the non-believers. And sometimes it's the people that don't believe that get the biggest message of all. And that happens all the time at my live events, at my group readings. When I go up to somebody on the street, sometimes it's the person that didn't believe that needs to hear that message and needs that validation of knowing that their loved one is there. Now, there are sometimes, Bill, where, I'll read somebody and the soul will come through and they'll tell them, that they'll say names, dates, validations, all those things. And that person just doesn't want to believe. You can give them all the information, all the information that you have, and that person doesn't want to believe whatsoever. And there's nothing that I can do about that. But my job is only to deliver the message.
Next, the life of a psychic medium. It certainly can be interesting. So why does he do it?
I'm just giving back the gift that the spirit world gives me every single day. And the one wish that I have is I wish that I could give people a pair of my eyes.
Welcome back to The Pulse. This is exciting, informative, and fun. So let's get right back to our conversation with Matt Fraser. Why do you do this? I mean, you travel, you share this with people, you tell them things that sometimes they don't want to hear. I mean, this is an emotional roller coaster for individuals. Why? Why make this kind of your life's work?
I got to tell you, because I see so much healing every single day. I thrive off of it. My goal is to reach as many people as possible. And what keeps me ticking, what keeps me going are the messages, the comments, all the people on my social media channels that, write to me and say, Matt, this came to me at the right time. You have no idea how much this helped me. You have no idea how much I needed to hear this. And seeing these people go from crying and upset and not being able to live their life to being able to laugh again, to smile again, to enjoy life again. That's what my mission is all about. I'm just giving back the gift that the spirit world gives me every single day. And the one wish that I have is I wish that I could give people a pair of my eyes. I wish that people could see through my eyes just for a few short seconds, just for a few short minutes, because if they saw what I saw as a medium, then they would know that their loved ones are there, their loved ones are at peace, their loved ones are with them. And more importantly, there's no reason to live life with worries, fears, and anxieties after losing a loved one. Because in the end, even if you live to be 120 years old, life here on earth is way too short. And here on earth, this is the classroom. On the other side in heaven, that's when we're all reunited.
When people hear about psychic mediums, a lot of the stories, you see people crying, you see people laughing. You very rarely see people who get what we would describe as bad news, or something that they weren't prepared to hear. Like, some of it's emotional, but you very rarely hear, this person didn't like you a whole lot, or like, how do you deal with that type of thing?
Or, there are times, and I have to disagree with you. There are times when I give readings and it's not what the person wants to hear. Okay. And I got to tell you that I don't think that that's a bad reading, but I do feel that, the other side only gives us information that's going to help us to heal and help us to move forward within our lives. And unfortunately, I've had many of those readings. I've had, people come to me that are going through a divorce, that want to hear that that they and their husband are going to get back together, and that they're going to be able to reconcile things, and that they're going to be able to, move past what had happened. And unfortunately, their mother in spirit or their father in spirit will come through and say, I'm sorry, but this relationship is too far gone. Or I'm sorry, but this, it's not going to work out in that way. And that's really tough news to deliver. But what I have to let you know is that as tough as it is to deliver, it helps that person to move on and to heal.
Next on The Pulse, Matt gets a little bit personal about things that I've been experiencing. But it just all of a sudden
you don't think that Fox is because you work on Fox News and your dad is proud of the job that you're doing?
I don't know. It certainly could be. Welcome back to The Pulse, exploring all sorts of things with America's top psychic, Matt Fraser. Let's get back to it. I gotta tell you, if I'm being brutally honest, which is the nature of The Pulse, it's a little over a year since my father passed. And you and I follow each other on social media, so you may or may not have been aware of that. And initially, I really wanted to hear from him. Like, I wanted to know something. And then when we decided that you were going to come on in the show, then I wasn't sure. Then it was, wow, I don't know how I would deal with something like that. So people like me, and love my dad, miss my dad, but people like me who want those symbols but haven't seen them, or maybe we didn't know how to embrace them. What do you say to those people who feel like I had the best relationship in the world and I haven't heard anything yet?
Why is that? Because when your loved ones go to the other side, they have to learn to communicate with us the same way that we have to learn to communicate with them. And one of the things that the spirit world tells me, okay, is that when we make our transition to the other side, one of the first things that we do is we choose unique signs and symbols to reach our loved ones here in this world. So for example, let's take your dad, for example. He might choose one sign to reach you, another sign to reach your mom, another sign to reach another family member. And these are their own little ways of communicating with us and speaking with us. But at the same time, you have to be ready as well. And sometimes one of the reasons why souls don't come through is because we haven't gone through the grief. We haven't gone through the healing process ourselves. And sometimes that happens because I've read for so many people, and there are so many people who come to me and they'll say to me, Matt, I haven't felt my mom with me. I haven't felt my dad with me. And it's not because they're not there. It's because of the fact that they haven't gone through that healing process yet. So it's a journey. Death is a journey that not only our loved ones take once they get to the other side, but a journey that we take in learning how to communicate with them and speak to them, and still hold on to that bond. And it can be really hard, Bill, because when we lose a person, especially when it was so close, when they were so close to us, we miss their physical presence. And having to learn to communicate without that physical presence here is a really tough and challenging job.
We ask other people to ask you questions. So we tweet out and what have you. And one of the ones that came in is that you talk about symbols. There was a woman who tweeted us that when her mother passed, she believed that a cardinal would come and kind of check in on her. I mentioned my father. When he passed, all of a sudden I started seeing this fox that was around the house. And my sister's convinced that's dad coming to communicate. Do you believe in those types of symbols? Or is that just us kind of reaching out, trying to hold on to something?
Absolutely. And what do you think that fox means to you?
I don't know. It just kind of like he started coming around. I haven't seen him in probably a week or so. But it just all of a sudden I started seeing him.
You don't think that fox is because you work on Fox News and your dad is proud of the job that you're doing?
I don't know. It certainly could be.
See, this is what I'm saying, is that sometimes people miss the signs. And it's funny because how weird is it that after your dad had passed away, you have this fox coming to see you, you work on Fox News, and your dad is showing you that he's there. These are the ways that, we have to draw conclusions here in this world. Our loved ones just don't send us signs to send us signs. Sometimes a butterfly is just a butterfly. But it's the meaning behind that sign and why that sign comes through. For example, that viewer who said that they saw a cardinal. Mm-hmm. Maybe their dad was a Cardinals fan. Maybe their dad was a big outdoor enthusiast and their dad loved sitting outside and bird watching. That would be a symbol that he's using to reach them. Because spirits don't choose signs just out of the blue. They choose signs based on their personality. For example, there was a reading that I did where this woman's father was a fisherman. And she had said to me, Matt, I don't get signs from my dad. I never get any signs. I'm like, wait a minute. Your father's telling me that he sends you, fishing hooks. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, that's crazy. She's like, everywhere I go, I see fishing hooks. My friend just bought me a sweatshirt with a big hook on it. She's like, is that really him? She goes, I didn't put two and two together. And I'm like, of course it is. It definitely is. Because that was what he loved and enjoyed here in this world.
Another question that came in is, this is a person who said it's been 1 year since their father passed away. They're coming to see you on tour, and we'll talk about the tour in just a moment. But they were saying he praying that their father comes through when they come to see you. What do you say to people like that? Because you don't know. Like, who knows if they will be there that night that that they come to see you on tour?
You know, it all depends. It depends on when that soul is ready to come through and has a message. And in the beginning, I used to get really worried about that, right? Because my whole thing is I want to reach as many people as possible. You know, if 100 people come to see me, I want to read 100 people. But what I've learned doing this work is that that's just not the case, because sometimes souls aren't ready to come through. So, you know, what I tell people is that it's literally a family reunion with heaven. When I walk into the room, I never know who's going to come through, what soul's going to step forward, and what soul's going to speak. But what I do know is that if a soul comes through, it's because there's someone in that audience that really, really needs to hear that message.
Many of you have heard the stories of my father passing, but up next, Matt shares his insight.
Your dad is also here on the other side communicating with me.
Welcome back to The Pulse. Today, we're joined by America's top psychic, Matt Fraser. Let's get right back to it. I want to talk to you about, you're on tour. You got a book coming out. You got a TV show. But first, tell us about the tour. It sold out in Philadelphia, but kind of moving around.
I could not believe it. So the moment that we launched in Philadelphia, we literally put the event up there. It sold out. We had to launch it at a second event, and that sold out. So I'm going to be coming to New York. I'm going to be coming to Detroit, Michigan. And I'm also doing some online readings as well. But in the meantime, I spent this pandemic writing my brand new book called We Never Die, Secrets of the Afterlife. And I realized that during the pandemic, more so now than ever, so many people have been coming to me with questions. They've been saying, Matt, what happens when you die? Matt, what happens with somebody who had passed of suicide? What happens when, you know, we lose a young child? How old are you in heaven? What happens if you've been married multiple times? Well, I've taken all of the answers to those questions. I've asked the spirit world about it. And I wrote this new book called We Never Die, Secrets of the Afterlife.
So how's this work? Are we feeling something? Are we sensing something?
I'm seeing visions of this young friend. You grew up together, because I'm seeing like a neighborhood that's here. So yes. You were in the same neighborhood with one another?
Yeah, we knew each other since we were children. Yeah, and
he's showing me visions of back in the day, because I keep seeing like schooling and school kids that's coming up, and he's showing me visions of there was a rare blood disease or a rare disease that he had when he passed. Yeah,
a very close friend of mine got sick, and his family's still not exactly sure what it was that killed him, but it was
in his blood. He keeps telling me it was in my blood, it was in my blood, it was in my blood, and he's telling me that that's how he had died. It was crazy, because whatever had happened, I don't know if it caused meningitis, but whatever had happened, I felt like it had attacked his spinal column, or there was something that went to his brain, because he's telling me this.
Yeah, I mean, yes, this friend of mine struggled for years. So he got sick when he was younger, and nobody could figure out what it was. I'm
going to tell you what it was. He's here because he's telling me, Matt, this was a ticking time bomb. And he says to me that he was going to doctor after doctor after doctor, and I kept hearing him getting misdiagnosed. And he's showing me when I'm connecting with him that he struggled for so many years. And one of the things that was weird about this illness is that it had weird side effects.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And he had all kinds of... He's showing me when
I'm connecting that he goes, Matt, he goes, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And he was a runner here in this world. He shows me he was athletic. He used to like to run.
All of this fits, and he couldn't figure out what it was. And sometimes it impacted his eyes. Sometimes it impacted other areas. He struggled for years.
Bill, your father's also here, because sometimes souls will band together. And when I had that young soul come through with you, your dad is also here on the other side communicating with me. Because your dad is showing me, the moment I'm connecting with him, visions of microphones and whatnot. He was in broadcast as well here in the physical.
Yes.
And your father's telling me when I'm connecting with him that you look up to him every single day, because you're living life almost like your dad did here in this world. He says to me, let him know I'm so proud. Let him know I'm so proud, because the things that you're doing in life right now is the same journey that your dad was on here in this world. You might not sense and feel him around you, but your dad tells me that you talk to him every day. And he tells me in your office here and now in Fox that you have pictures of him that you look at and you think about your dad. He says to me, he says, please thank my son for putting my pictures out. Thank my son for putting my pictures out, he's telling me. And also your dad knows about some clothes that you kept of his as well, because he's talking about some shirts that were kept after his passing. And it's actually funny. Did you actually just wear one of your father's shirts? He talks about you putting a shirt on.
I actually, it's been a little while, but I wore one of his shirts on TV because I just was feeling him that day. So I put on a shirt that didn't fit and went in and did the show in that shirt.
He says to me, I want him to know that I saw him wearing that shirt. So when you had that on, know it's his way of acknowledging that.
We could talk to you all day, but we are going to have to stop at some point. People want to follow you. They want to get more information. They want to get in touch. How do they do that?
So if the dead can find me, you can find me. I'm all over social media, but you can also visit my website, meetmattfraser.com. That's the #1 place to come in to reach me. And more importantly, to discover some of the psychic ability that you have yourself, because I have articles, blogs, videos, you name it, it's all there.
Wow. Thanks so much for watching The Pulse today. That was a lot. We appreciate you going through that journey with us and with Matt Fraser. And remember that as much as you saw on TV, there is still more on podcasts. So the entire interview, unedited, is on all places where you get podcasts. Just make sure you search The Pulse with Bill Anderson. We'll be back to do it again next week. Thanks for watching.